Hello, everyone, and welcome to Full Time, where we take you around the world of soccer locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally. Full Time is presented by the Game Sports Podcast and powered by 91 Network. You are listening to Season 5, Episode 12 of Full Time. I'm your host, Daniel Scarpino, and with me is our co host, Gitano Gallo. Before we begin today's show, Full Time is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza. With their two locations in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, you can download and access the Pizza Portal app so you can enjoy a delicious hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars today. A reminder, listeners, that recordings of Full Time occur weekly or bi weekly, and uploads to all of our platforms for public viewing and listening occur weekly or bi weekly as well. Folks, we welcome you back to Full Time, where we get to discuss the sport that connects each of us. G, how are you tonight, my friend?
Scarps, I'm doing fantastic tonight. How are you doing?
I will equal that and say that I am fantastic too. Got to play futsal with you last night. It was great to be back with the boys. And now the next night here on a Thursday evening, we get to record full time. Couldn't be any better. In today's show, we will talk about some news in the world of football, Europe's Big Five, the Champions League, and the MLS. As always, if anyone would like to listen to our previous content, please check us out at Full Time on the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network. And without further ado, Gaetano, and to everyone who has taken the time to tune in here today, let's kick off. We get today's show going with some news in the world of football. Toronto FC manager John Herdman has recently resigned from his position as bench boss. After just one season in charge, Herdman has stepped down from his role as TFC manager, now leaving a void to be filled going into next season. Gitano, I'm pretty sure that we all know what is happening here, but I'm going to ask that you please take the reins on this one.
Yeah, so neither John Herdman or TFC mentioned it in any of their statements, but this is obviously relating to the drone scandal with Canada Soccer. Um, Honestly, after the Priestman news, it kind of was almost a matter of time before John Herdman got involved. And I think it's best for him and for the club to separate at this point. There's no need to drag TFC kind of through the mud with this if they've got nothing to do with it. So I think, yeah, it's just kind of best for both parties. Him stepping down, obviously not the greatest year of his coaching career. Did lead us to we got out of the group stage in the Leagues Cup and to a Canadian Championship final, but no major silverware, no real anything. If we're going to be quite honest, there was a brief period where he had the Italians playing well, but that was kind of about it. So yeah, I guess onwards and upwards for TFC and for John Herdman.
Yeah, and I hope the best for Herdman. Obviously, I hope the best for TFC. I know you do as well because that's our club. But it is one of those things where I really had hoped for Herdman purely because I obviously rate him as a coach. I thought he was going to come in and fix a lot. You saw the kind of positive and promising signs moving forward, despite the fact that the way that the club is run is not great. And obviously, he just needed the time. But with this whole drone scandal thing, we obviously know that that is the underlying issue. And now he won't have the time to bring us back to where we want to be. But I guess the greater question, Gitano, becomes who's going to fill this void? Because at this moment in time, I personally have no idea.
I mean, I'm not going to sit here and throw names at a wall. Just I don't know a lot of the the details of guys' contracts, but I know Robin Fraser was one of Greg Vanney's assistants for a while. I don't know where he is now, but I know he left. He's been coaching in MLS for a couple of years. I think that would be probably, depending on his contract situation, a pretty ideal candidate. Knows the MLS well, knows the club really well. Just kind of seems like a kind of an easy fit there. But outside of that, I'm sure MLSE has cash to throw around. They'll probably try and look for hopefully a kind of a high quality European manager, maybe, someone to kind of really shake things up. But in the last couple of days, we haven't really been linked with anyone yet. I think it's still kind of a fresh wound. So yeah, no like kind of links or kind of rumors or anything. But yeah, I think Robin Fraser's to me seems the most like realistic and like kind of best case scenario option right now.
Well, and to everyone who's listening or watching our show, you can rest assured that when that manager does get appointed, you can catch it right here on Full Time. But Herdman out and who in? That is the next question. Let's now jump on over to Europe's Big Five. In the Premier League is where we will start. Liverpool is still top with 35 points. Chelsea and Arsenal are joint second with 28 points. Manchester City is just behind them with 26 points. Gee, what can we say right now regarding the top of the table? And second one for you, is Chelsea officially in the conversation for the title?
So actually, I'm going to start with Chelsea there, and I think they're in the conversation for the title, not particularly on their own merit. I think a lot of the kind of chasing pack that we expected just hasn't been up to standard this season. Arsenal and City, kind of the two big ones. Obviously, Liverpool's been playing really well and top of the table right now, but I think, yeah, they're kind of Chelsea's more in this title race right now, kind of just based out of luck and opportunity. Not they haven't been playing like badly, but just I think if Arsenal and City had kind of played a little more to what we were expecting before the season started, it'd be kind of a little less of a conversation right now. But kind of you look at the top 6, top 8 even, we're kind of seeing the heavy hitters, not too much separation, but they've kind of split now. It's Liverpool, City, Arsenal, and City. Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, and City, sitting in the top 4, which is pretty much expected. Brighton in and around there. Fulham surprisingly in there as well. Forest and Villa in kind of the mix. So you're kind of seeing a little bit of a split, but not quite like full-on separation yet. But yeah, it's been an incredibly interesting title race so far.
It really has been. And I always say, give it till after Christmas, and that's when you can start asking the real questions. But as it pertains to Chelsea, they're in a very good run of form right now. But as we know in football, especially in the Premier League, that form isn't going to last all season. So at some point, they are going to hit that rough patch. And when they do, we'll see how they kind of calm the storm. In the relegation zone, it's Southampton, Wolves, and Ipswich. Gitano, the likes of Crystal Palace, Leicester City, and Everton have found their way out of this conversation, at least for the time being. But can we anticipate that a few things might shake up at the bottom as we approach the busy Christmas period very soon?
Yeah, and I mean, not for any specific reason other than there's just so many games played in this period of time that there's just bound to be changes. I can't imagine they all match each other's exact results and everything stays exactly the same at the bottom. So yeah, I do expect a lot of change over the next probably like 3 to 6-ish weeks once we kind of get into the new year. Yeah, it should be kind of all over the place.
It really should be, and it's interesting, a team like Wolves, last show we were talking about them being outside the relegation zone, and now they're back in it. So if we're just talking on a week-to-week basis, we see the changes. We can imagine, like you said, in 3 to 6 weeks that there's going to be some major changes. In Italy, Serie A, Napoli continue to lead with 32 points. Second to them is Atalanta with 30 points. The likes of Inter, Fiorentina, and Lazio are all joint third with 28 points. Gitano, when it comes to Napoli, they aren't scoring a ton of goals, but they aren't conceding very many either. Is this going to be their recipe for success going forward this season?
I mean, like it's a really simple thing, but like if you don't concede goals, you don't lose games, right? Like, it's very basic, but yeah, if they can keep this kind of defensive record up, only they've only conceded, or sorry, the goal difference is only 12. They've only conceded 9 goals. Yeah, like that's like if you offer like any manager of any club in Europe said, hey, like 14 games in the season, you're only conceding 9 goals, like everyone's snapping your hand off for that deal. That's incredible defensive record. So yeah, if they can keep this up, they're taking like really good steps towards reclaiming the Serie A title.
Yeah, I am with you there, and I will say out note that I think that this is going to be their recipe for success. They found something that has gotten through the first 13 plus games, and I think that this will continue forward. But the big thing is if the goals get dry, then you have to start finding different solutions for how you're going to get goals, whether it's set pieces or other. Out in Spain's La Liga, the leaders remain Barcelona, but not by much. They have 37 points. Despite their most recent game, which ended in a loss, Real Madrid is second with 33 points and 1 game in hand. Atletico Madrid is third with 32 points, and Athletic Club has jumped into fourth with 29 points after defeating Real Madrid in their most recent game. So, G, your take on La Liga at this moment in time?
Yeah, I was actually just about to mention the fact that Athletic Club beating Real Madrid, like it's a fantastic result for them to get them into the top 4, but also kind of keeps Real Madrid from getting too close to Barcelona, really keeping that top 4 like really tight. So yeah, just incredible result for them. And yeah, the La Liga title race is looking. I know we've like said it a couple times. It's looking kind of a lot like a classic, like Ronaldo Messi era, Barcelona, Real Madrid with Atletico poking around. It's very exciting, not something we've seen out of La Liga for a couple of years now.
Yeah, and I hope that this top four race continues to be tight, because I think that'd be great for things moving forward, and it just adds a bit of parity. And I hope it doesn't come down to a two-horse race. I'd love for the likes of Atletico Madrid, Athletic Club, Villarreal, whoever, to still be in the mix come toward the end of the season. The Bundesliga in Germany remains in Bayern's hands. They are still unbeaten and have 30 points. Frankfurt is second with 26 points. Leverkusen is third with 23 points. Leipzig round out the top four with 21 points. Gitano, the teams behind Bayern will be hoping for a slip up, but what can you say right now for Germany's top flight, and will a slip up for Bayern come anytime soon?
Yeah, so I mean the Klassiker draw with Borussia Dortmund over the last weekend was maybe the most in quotations human Bayern have looked domestically this season. So it was nice to see that there's some some chinks in the armor. They're probably not gonna go undefeated. I'm gonna knock on wood there. But yeah, I think there's definitely room for Bayern Munich to slip up a little bit. Obviously, kind of the chasing pack needs to keep up with them as well. But I think maybe the first to minor weaknesses maybe showing in Vinny Company's Bayern Munich side. So it should be interesting to see how this draw kind of plays out for Bayern Munich here, see if they can bounce back with a couple big wins, or if this maybe the start of a little bit of a rough patch for them.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens there, and if, to your point, if that sort of chink in the armor is going to get exposed, or if that's something that they're going to rebound from relatively quickly. In France's Ligue 1, PSG remain unbeaten and hold 33 points to their name. Marseille and Monaco are joint second with 26 points. Gitano, PSG are averaging nearly 3 goals per game. Can they sustain this effort as the season continues?
I yes and no, but a little more yes. I think the quality in Liga, just kind of around the league, kind of facilitates that for them, considering just how much just star power they have. They should be scoring like 3 or 4 goals a game. Just if you look at it on paper. But obviously, this also means that they're playing really well as a unit, as a team. We've talked about it a bunch this year. They're really finally kind of looking like the project that the Qatari ownerships wanted for a decade now. And yeah, I think they have some top quality attackers, Ousmane Dembele and Randal Colomani being kind of the two main guys. And yeah, if they kind of keep the form that they're on, I don't, maybe 3 goals a game is maybe a stretch, but they definitely have enough offensive firepower, and the quality in the league is probably low enough that they should be able to sustain this close to this level of firepower all season.
Yeah, I agree that it will be close, and obviously with the reduction of games from what Ligue 1 used to be. Ligue 1 used to be 38 games. Now it's 34 because the amount of teams in the division. I did have a look, and they won't break the record for the amount of goals scored in a Ligue 1 season just with the reduction of the games. But if they do hover around 3 goals per game, I can't see how they don't run away with this league by Valentine's Day. This is Daniel Scarpino and Gitano Gallo, and you're listening to Full Time on the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network. A reminder that Full Time is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza. You can download and access the Pizza Portal app for any of the 2 locations in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Have a delicious hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars today. The Champions League continues to roll on as 5 of the 8 allotted matches for the teams in the competition have been played. Gitano, there are 3 games to go for each team. Is it now officially crunch time?
Yeah, so we've talked about this before with the Champions League. We don't know the math like we used to with the group stages, but yes, 3 games left. This should be crunch time. Also, just I don't know if it was just the way the draw worked out, but there's all of the heavy hitters are playing each other in this next match week. So I feel like this is the perfect time to no, you don't have a random Croatian team. No, you have a Bayern Munich, a Barcelona, a Juventus. You have a big hitter. You have a huge match coming up. So it kind of feels more like crunch time.
Yeah, I agree with that. And with those 3 games left to play, that means that there's 9 points left to play mathematically. By the way, everybody's still in the competition. So, yeah, we're going to take a look at things here and now in terms of the newly formatted Champions League table, which is quite large. The top 8 at this moment in time are Liverpool, Inter, Barcelona, Dortmund, Atalanta, Leverkusen, Arsenal, and Monaco. Gitano, of these 8 teams, who has impressed you the most so far?
I'm going to go with Borussia Dortmund, just considering their domestic form isn't great. They're currently sitting 5th in the Bundesliga, but to be 4th in this table with some huge scalps as well. They do have Barcelona up next, which is that's definitely a tough game for them. Because the way that they've been playing, at least in Europe, anyways, has been really impressive.
Yeah, and for me, I'm gonna go Leverkusen because again in the Bundesliga it's kind of all about Bayern Munich right now, and I think that for them to carry on from some of their success from last season to be in the position that they're in here in the Champions League, I think that it's quite good for them, and I think that there could be good things destined for them moving forward if they can kind of keep this run of form ongoing. So it will essentially be everyone else who has to try and accumulate the maximum amount of points in their 3 remaining games, Gitano. As I said, there technically and mathematically speaking, there has been no team which has been eliminated from the competition. So basically everybody's in it still. Um, Outside of the top 8, however, that we just talked about, who do you expect to make a big push in the final 3 games of this qualification phase?
So there's some pretty big teams not in the top 8 right now. I'm going to start with kind of the lowest ranking 2, which is PSG and Real Madrid, who are 25th and 24th. If the competition, or the group stage of the competition anyways, ended right now, PSG actually wouldn't even qualify for the knockout round. So I think, we kind of expect them to have some growing pains in the Champions League, considering we talked about domestically, like the youth in the squad. It's a very kind of new group. But you just kind of expect them to be in and around kind of the quarterfinals of the Champions League. Just that's how they've been for the last decade. I do expect a push from them, and then Real Madrid's Real Madrid. A little bit of a slow start in Europe, but this is still their competition. These 3 games, I'm expecting 9 points and probably 3 absolute batterings, depending on who they play. So I definitely expect those two to make a big push. But even if you look a little higher up the table, City in 17th, Juve in 19th, Milan in 16th, Atletico Madrid in 15th, like all of these teams are going to want that push to get the kind of the top seeded qualification. So to kind of, there's not really like one to pick from there, but I will say I do expect Bayern Munich to make a bigger push, because they're the closest to that top 8 and 13th right now.
Fair enough. And all of your points are well taken, well received. I have to give the cop out answer, and I have to say Real Madrid just because this is their competition, pretty much always has been. So I anticipate that they're going to jump up. And if they got 9 points from a possible 9 in their last 3 games, it wouldn't surprise me. So that would be my pick for the team outside the top 8 to make a big push here as we come into the final 3 games. The next games in the Champions League will be played on December 10th and 11th. In our next episode of Full Time, we will take yet another look at the Champions League table. Let's now jump over to the MLS playoffs. The conference finals have officially wrapped up, and that means that we are all set and ready for the MLS playoff final. Gitano, before we review these conference finals, were you happy with what you saw on Saturday night?
Yeah, I was pretty happy. I thought, well, first of all, not to like spoil it, but Seattle's eliminated, so like that just, I'm happy with that. That's nothing else matters in terms of the MLS for me for the rest of the year. Like Seattle's not going to win MLS Cup. I'm a happy guy. But the quality of the games was great. We had some late goals, big drama, just everything you want from a conference final in MLS.
Absolutely. And I would agree with that 100%, and some very professional performances, might we add. And we're going to talk about each of the conference finals here and now. The first conference final was played between Orlando City and the New York Red Bulls. Efficiency and experience was the name of the game in this one, as the New York Red Bulls made their only shot on target count as they go on to defeat Orlando City by a score of 1-0 and thus book their spot in the MLS playoff final. Gitano, you mentioned it on our last show that you thought that there was just a bit more quality, a little bit more experience, and you take a look at the game. It was a very methodical approach from the New York Red Bulls, and they ended up winning the game. So you got this spot on, not just from picking the result correct, but also understanding how this game was going to go. So I'm going to pass it over to you for your analysis on this game.
Yeah, sometimes I know what I'm talking about. Sometimes.
Often.
But yeah, like this was a textbook playoff New York Red Bulls performance. and I don't want to say that Orlando dominated. They only had 3 shots on target, 9 shots total. So it wasn't like they were putting up double-digit shots or anything. And only created 0.94 expected goals from their 3 shots on target. So it wasn't like a huge domination or Red Bulls barely scraped through, but definitely Orlando had a little more of the ball, kind of a few more chances, but it's just like that grit and steel in New York Red Bulls, just that experience. Those veteran players knew how to weather the storm, and obviously, like you said, you have to take that chance. You got 1 shot on target, make it count. They do that, and they're off to the MLS Cup final.
No doubt, and a good team will make you pay, even if it is on only one occasion. And they deservedly book their place in the final. And in the other conference final, it was the LA Galaxy who took on Seattle. And we know how that result ended up, but it was a game that was largely in the balance. We would see the quality of the LA Galaxy pay off in the end. It was an 85th minute winner. That would be the headline for the Galaxy, as they would go on to win the match by a score of 1-0. They booked their ticket, of course, to the MLS playoff final. Gitano, if you could break this one down for us, please.
Yeah, it was kind of a typical Seattle playoff performance. Sat in deep, soaked up pressure, hit on the counter. And to be fair, that's kind of LA Galaxy's bread and butter. So in terms of watching games in neutral, not really neutral. But like it was a very like pleasing game to watch. Just in terms of how they were attacking each other. It was just brilliant. And then the goal to win it, late winner, 86th minute. Like that's what you want from a playoff game. It was perfect. The big news though for LA Galaxy is Ricky Puig blowing his ACL, assisting that goal. Actually, well, no, he heard it slightly before, got the assist with a torn ACL. So that's gonna be a huge loss for them. Not just for the MLS Cup final, but for next season as well.
Yeah, that is in fact a big loss, and unfortunately for the Galaxy, they won't be able to look at that because they've got to focus on what's in front of them, and that, of course, is going to be the MLS playoff final, regardless of who they have in their squad. And Gitano, just to review our picks, you were right about the New York Red Bulls. I was right about LA. So again, to your point, as you mentioned last year on a number of occasions, 2 halves of a perfect football spring, and we are now set up for just a fantastic final ahead of us, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, this is shaping up to be like an all-timer MLS Cup final. 2 like historic MLS franchises, both kind of restored to their former glory. One of them finally looking for kind of the crown jewel to kind of be fully back. But yeah, this is just it's going to be a brilliant game.
I think so too. And it's going to be on Saturday, December 7th at 4 p.m. Eastern time. It will be the LA Galaxy that go up against the New York Red Bulls to see who will be MLS playoff champions. So, Gitano, I'm going to pass it over to you to give your thoughts on just generally the road that these teams have traveled to get to this point in their seasons and what they can anticipate going into the final.
Yeah, for LA Galaxy, we'll start there. This is the expectation. Just the way this franchise is, this dates back to like David Beckham playing for them. Like they are expected to be a top team in the league, and not just in terms of results, but like kind of the style in which they do it, because they're LA and you can't do it ugly in LA. It's got to be pretty. And so they've lived up to the hype all year. Really, that's the best way I can put it. They've just been fantastic going forward. Greg Vanney's, you're seeing that that old school TFC, where they didn't just score 1 or 2, they scored 4 or 5 or 6. Just brilliant. The defense has been fantastic. Just, we were talking about with Napoli, like if you don't concede goals, you don't lose games. And they've conceded very few, all year, especially into the playoffs. So really just kind of, I don't want to be like, it's obvious they were going to make the MLS Cup final, but it was just kind of written in the stars for them. And for New York Red Bulls, a little bit different. Didn't finish quite as high up in the table as they would like. Kind of really had to slug it through these playoffs here. A couple of really tough matchups, but like we talked about, that grit, that steel, that determination, that that veteran leadership is kind of dragging them through here. And yeah, like Red Bulls have, again, a historic MLS franchise. They've definitely won more than a fair share of MLS Cups before. Again, it's been a while since either of these teams have been involved in this, so it's just just like a classic matchup. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I always remember growing up, as like a teenager even, just remembering like the New York Red Bulls, like, just the jersey and
Thierry Henry played for them.
Thierry Henry, like there, it was just, I remember that vividly. And, the LA Galaxy, like you said, it always has to be done pretty, but they've had a fantastic season. And, going into this game, I think that we are set, like you said, for an all-timer. And if it's not going to be an all-timer, I still think it's going to be a very good game. So I'm just super excited for Saturday night for so many different reasons. And as we approach this game, Gitano, according to the match outline via MLS Overview, the win probability across the 90 minutes is that the LA Galaxy sits at a 56% chance to win this game, the New York Red Bulls at 21%, and the possibility of this match going to extra time sits at 23%. So for you, Gitano, do these odds make sense?
I would give the Red Bulls a little more credit. I think it should be shifted a little more. I would give the Red Bulls a little more credit, but also I think the loss of Ricky Puig is huge for LA Galaxy. It can't be overstated how important he is to that team in terms of their creativity and their offensive output. So I think losing him again, and especially against a team that's so tough and so kind of gritty and dirty, not having that creative outlet is going to be a big factor for them. So I would definitely say that the odds should be shifted just like a little more favorable for the Red Bulls.
Fair enough. And I too believe that to be the case. And I could definitely see this match going beyond normal time. And I think that extra time sitting at 23% could also be elevated. But Gitano, it is time for us to pick. Obviously, we're both looking forward to Saturday at 4:00 Eastern time. But come that time, who will be crowned MLS playoff champions Saturday evening?
It's so tough to look past LA. Just the season they've had, it feels written in the stars that this is how they're going to do it. But that Red Bulls team, no Ricky Puig, I can't look past the New York Red Bulls right now. I just got this sneaking suspicion that they're just going to grind for 120 minutes, 0-0, and then win it in a shootout.
I love that pick, and I've got to be perfectly honest, and there's no need for me to hide. I've doubted the New York Red Bulls all playoffs, and I'm ashamed for it. And I just feel like at this point, I can't change it now because I've done it all the way through. If the Red Bulls end up winning, I think that would be fantastic and they would totally deserve it. But I just feel like for some of the reasons that you mentioned, I think the LA Galaxy have something great to play for in terms of their injured player. I think they've had a phenomenal season. I think they got a very cool story to finish. And I think that it could very well, like you mentioned earlier, be written in the stars. So I am going to say the LA Galaxy are going to win it. A reminder once more that this game is going to take place Saturday evening, 4 p.m. Eastern time, between the LA Galaxy and the New York Red Bulls. You can watch this game, the most important game of the MLS season, on your local television sports network. And we can't wait to update you all next time on Full Time for the result of this game. This is Daniel Scarpino and Gitano Gallo, and you are listening to Full Time on the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network. A reminder that Full Time is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza. You can download and access the Pizza Portal app for any of the 2 locations in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Have a delicious hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars today. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Full Time. As we bring today's show to a close, we want to extend our thanks to each of you for tuning in today. Thank you for your continued support. G, it was a great one tonight. Well done, sir.
Well done to you as well. There's very few things I'd rather spend my Thursday night doing than talking the beautiful game with you, Scarps.
Yeah, and I'm on the exact same page as you, bro. Something that I've looked forward to all week. And nice thing, we get to do it all again next week. So a reminder to our listeners that the next episode of Full Time will be recorded the week of December 9th, 2024. In that show, we will take a look at Europe's Big Five, the Champions League, the MLS, and the Carabao Cup. As always, we will keep everyone in the loop with all of the happenings in the world of football. For weekly content, make sure to hit like, follow, and subscribe to all platforms of both the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, and Podbean. On behalf of both Gitano Gallo and myself, we want to thank you for tuning into Full Time. We look forward to seeing you at kickoff next time back here on the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network. Best always.